Hello everybody, and I'm back. It's been a bit of a hiatus off of YouTube. It is August 2023 and here I am talking about breathing. So I've got 3 clips and I'm going to outline how to improve your breathing and why optimal breathing is super useful beyond the obvious of just getting carbon dioxide out and oxygen in. In a moment we'll look at ways to improve your way you breathe. In the second clip I'm going to look at how you can use your breath to improve your connection with your deep core muscles. These are muscles that support your spine and trunk, so they're really useful. The breathing's integral to your core connection. This same core connection, your breath, your deep abdominals, is foundational, absolutely crucial for the health and functionality of the pelvic floor. So in the third clip I'm going to talk about how your first element of any regime to help improve the way your pelvic floor works is your breathing. I'm going to say how and why. In the title of this clip I've talked about optimal breathing, but I think it's just worth pointing out that in some ways, we're going to do breathing exercises, but in some ways the notion of optimal breathing is a bit of a misnomer. Because really how you breathe depends on what you're doing. So for instance, if you're running for a breath, you are going to be required, you will need one kind of breathing. But if you're sitting on the bus with bags of shopping on your knees and your arms round like this to stop them falling off, then it's a completely different kind of breathing. Having said that, what I'm going to do here is treat breathing as an exercise for your breathing muscles, and because we want to get the right muscles doing the right thing at the right time. I'm going to give you a quick explanation. If you don't want that, scroll past and then the exercises will kick in. So the work of breathing produces an expansion of the rib cage. It's that action that pulls air into your lungs as a result of pressure change. Ideally, breath is a kind of wave, not an actual literal wave, but I think it feels like a good way to describe it. Anyway, this wave starts with the domed shaped sort of diaphragm muscle that attaches into the base of the rib cage. I mean, I'm showing you in 2D, but it goes right through to the back. So the diaphragm contracts and moves down and out when you breathe in. In fact, it's the contraction of the diaphragm that produces the in-breath. So the diaphragm contracts and pulls the rib cage out and down. Next, and in response to the diaphragm action, the muscles, the intercostal muscles in between the ribs, get the ribs to rotate out like that. Think of it as a kind of 2-dimensional Venetian blind. Rotate, 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 giving you more expansion. And this kind of wave of in-breath sort of travels up the rib cage. So the more you breathe, the more expansion you get, higher and higher up. Crucially, and I'll return to this in the second and third clip, when you breathe in, you expand your diaphragm into the abdominal cavity where your digestive organs and your liver is, and beyond that into the pelvis where you have your bladder, your womb if you've got one, and your rectum. So in order for the diaphragm to be able to go down, you have to have give in the system. So when that happens, when you breathe in, your tummy muscles, your abdominal, I shouldn't say tummy, your abdominal muscles relax, and so does your pelvic floor. They're giving your organs literally some room for manoeuvre. So that's it. We're all breathing. We're all here. We're all good. We're all breathing. So what's the big deal? Well, basically, life gets in the way, and we breathe less well. All muscle activity can deteriorate a little bit with age, and that applies to us breathing muscles. And there's a couple of other things. Well, there's a couple of big ones. We have a very sedentary culture here in the UK, and as a result of that we get stiff, and that affects the breathing because the spine gets stiff and the rib gets stiff, and also the shoulders get stiff. So theoretically, when we have lovely mobile shoulders, the shoulder arm moves. Well, that's it, the shoulder arm moves. But when we're stiff, the shoulders are stiff, it takes the rib cage with it and pulls the ribs into a different position instead of them sitting doing their in and out breathing action. So also we're a nation of belly suckers, and when you suck your belly in habitually, this can disrupt the breath. It can affect the pelvic floor, but more on that in the third clip. But if you're belly sucking, it can have the tendency to divert the breathing up higher up into the ribs, and you can end up using what's known as the accessory muscles to produce the breath, because the breath down here is more disrupted. Now, those muscles are to help with breathing in emergencies, and if you have a disease of breathing like bronchitis, you use them. But if you're healthy, they should be there for emergencies, not used all the time. So I'm done with my explanation, so here are the exercises. So the main exercise that I'm going to give you, you'll need, if you haven't got a proper exercise band like this, then just something stretchy like a pair of leggings or a pair of tights would work. So you're going to wrap it around your ribs. So I am kneeling just because it's easier to talk into the camera, but you can stand, you can sit in a chair, and you can lie down. But I'm going to come to lying down in a little bit more detail in a moment. So the band is roughly around the base of the ribs, and it's under your boobs if you've got them. So don't over tighten, but there's a sense of tension and you've crossed over, okay? And this is just marvellous for encouraging the breathing, the rib cage to expand when you breathe. I'm just going to sort of be quiet and see if you can see my ribs expand. Here's my in-breath. So there we go. So breathing in and breathing out. So basically what this band is doing is giving you a tactile, a touch-related piece of equipment to sort of encourage you to feel, sense what is supposed to happen when you breathe in, so you can actively send the breath into the band. There's also, because your tights or your band are curved, you can curve it right round the ribs and potentially feel this sense of expansion in the back of your ribs as well as the side. So it does take a bit of doing, so it takes a bit of practice. So if you want to improve your breathing, maybe it's just a minute or two every so often. Okay, if you haven't got anything stretchy or if you don't like the feel of it, you can use your fingers, and I'll show you with my fingers. There we go. So, the alignment of us bits matters. So ideally, we want the pelvis with the rib cage on top, with the head on top of the body. So alignment matters. We haven't always got good alignment, and crucially, we can breathe in any position. But I think good breathing is a little bit of a call to arms to sometimes take care of that and think about how you are sitting or standing. If you've got a choice, we often have us head forward and us backs rounded, and you can try it. If you slump forward and breathe, it is harder. You've got to kind of push against a little bit more resistance. So if I'm working with people with their breathing, although you can lie down, it's often easier to do it in sitting because of the shoulder position. I'm saying that, but some people prefer lying down because they can sort of soften their body back and focus on the breathing, or you might be practicing in bed. One thing though, if you're going to lie down, I'm going to just show you. Because the shoulders are tight, if you lie down just on the floor, the tight shoulders, when you lie down, they can end up sort of reaching down and pushing your rib cage up a little bit, so it's relatively flared to the ceiling. Okay, so if you are working lying down, use a bolster, or what I've got here is a blanket and a cushion. So the cushion is to allow my shoulders to be better supported. I've got a cushion for my head. Obviously you've got plenty of pillows, maybe if you're in bed doing this. And so my rib cage is relatively down. And then you can, when you've got one arm to show you here, you can lie down and completely relax. Allow the back of your body to relax. I'd have your knees bent and feet flat on the floor, and there you go. Sense the that movement of the rib cage in, and then notice how it's much more passive when you breathe out. Another really great thing you can do is work lying on your side. If you've got a squishy ball, actually, do you know what? It's going to look like it's giving up the will to live. And you can put it on your rib cage, support your head like this, and it's fantastic this, because the little bit of air, you can feel that displacement of the air as you breathe in. So try it on both sides. And you can really have such a great tool to encourage that movement in the rib. It works also if you're lying on your tummy. Put your forehead on your hands and put the ball on your breastbone, and you can feel that expansion at the front. It's great, that works really well. So that's mostly it. A couple of other things. I think I've said, haven't I, that I've talked about that muscle action on the in-breath, and so reciprocally the out-breath is much more passive, because what goes out basically has to come in, unless, as I say, you have asthma or bronchitis, something like that. It's a different story. A couple of other things. Speed. I wouldn't worry about it. It's a relevant element, but it introduces another thing to sort of complicate matters. So just work on getting these ribcage movements, and ideally slow. So I'm just going to say that, slow. For the record, there's a lot of wiggle room with breathing rate, but about 12, would you believe, the difference between 12 to 18 breaths a minute. If you can do it, not all of us all the time, use your nose and not your mouth to breathe. And another little added extra is your tongue position. It's not mission critical, but if you could have your tongue gently eased into the roof of your mouth where there's a tongue-shaped space, or sort of more in the middle of your mouth, and you could imagine having the tongue, or literally have the tongue touching the back of your two front teeth. One last thing, and actually that's easier to feel when you're lying down, that, as I say, this action of the giving out of your abdominal muscles and pelvic floor and the in-breath. So if you were to put your hands on your tummy, gentle expansion, just gentle, because remember, we're trying to breathe into here, not breathe into here. So there's a gentle expansion of your in-breath as you breathe in, and those abdominals will descend back on the out-breath. So we're trying to get volume and shape change here, not huge amounts of volume and shape change here. So slight rise here, and ideally big here. So yes, sometimes takes a bit of practice. You could do it, it's a bit of a martini exercise, anytime, any place, anywhere, if you can use your hands. And as I say, coming next month, how to use your breath to improve your deep core connection. But for now, cheerio.
Hi there. I do hope you found this clip useful. We've got plenty more on the site, and for now I've suggested another one for you to watch. If you want to know more about what we do in Leeds, then do visit the website at pilates-leeds.com, and right now you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we can do this all again next month. Cheerio!